everyone to the Engineering Conversations, and today we have another female engineer who's joining us as well, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Kate and I'm a product design engineer and I run my own business called ExpHand Prosthetics, and we make 3D printed prosthetics.
Wow. So to start with, how did you get into product design engineering? Was that from maybe high school or something you always knew you wanted to do?
I had never heard of engineering until I was in sixth form, and I had no idea what I wanted to study at university. So I knew I liked maths, I knew I liked physics, and I knew I liked design. And I was just looking for some kind of job, some kind of degree course that would let me do all of those. And eventually in one careers lesson, I just happened to stumble across it when I was searching for design and engineering. And then product design engineering, the course actually came up, and I was like, this is it, this is what I want to do.
That's really impressive, because I think some of the ladies I've spoken to, I think two of them wanted to be doctors. Some of it was from parent influence, some of it was from the teacher. So it's really varied how all the other ladies have gotten into engineering.
Mm-hmm.
You want to tell us a little bit about your educational background in terms of STEM? I know you just mentioned having to do product design in when you were in sixth form. How did that translate once you got into uni?
So in sixth form, I did maths, further maths, physics, and I did art and chemistry for my AS levels. So it was very, very sciencey and only a little bit of art, because I knew I really liked design, but my A levels didn't really let me do anything. So I had to do a fine art AS level, and I can't paint, and I don't like drawing or painting people. And so I suffered through a year of AS art because I knew I wanted to do something designing, and I thought I've got to have something on my UCAS application that's something design based if I want to go into a design based degree. Now, note, I didn't. However, it was just a good experience just to be able to do something a bit creative in the midst of all of my maths and science. But I'd always really liked STEM. So probably physics, chemistry, maths were up in my top subjects from when I was about 7, really. I really liked science, I really liked maths, but I also liked art and history. And so it wasn't until, maybe about year 10 when I was like, okay, I think I prefer the science and the math side of things a bit more, but I still do like the creative side.
That's really good. Do you feel like you're using the art side now? Because I know with prosthetics, sometimes the art becomes key when you're designing these prosthetics. Do you feel like it's now coming into use?
Oh, definitely. So in terms of actually designing things, like 100%, that is art, that is creative. And you almost like verify it through your maths and your engineering knowledge, but you have to have the design idea, and you have to be able to like visualize things in your head, be able to sketch them out and draw something or tell someone in a way that they can understand it. And I think you need to have quite a creative mindset to be able to do that. And then also, if you're trying to ever sell something to someone, you need to market it, and that involves a lot of visual creativity, lots of pictures and just well-designed images. And so again, that whole creativity side mixed with the understanding of how things work, which is your science and your math, I think all of it is needed when you're starting your own company.
I think most engineers really don't consider art. It's like, I just want to do my physics, I don't want to do my maths. And it's like, what is art? So I like the way that you are now tapping into the arts that you did back in A levels, which is really good. What would you say is the most important project you've worked on, and why?
I think it has to be my dissertation project, because that was the initial idea for my company. So my degree dissertation project that I did in my 3rd year of university was to design a 3D printed prosthetic limb. And so that was the initial foundation. I got to spend like 9 months working on that, coming up with a design, deciding I wanted it to be with children because that's where the gap in the market was, and then also deciding that I wanted it to be adjustable so that it could grow with them. And so those two things, and just being given the chance to spend a year on it, let me get to the point where I could even consider starting my own business. So I think it has to be that project, because everything else I've done has been really fun, I've really enjoyed it, but nothing has set me up with a job apart from that one so far.
That's good. What would you say has been probably a challenge you have faced so far since you started your engineering career? You could also consider engineering back in uni.
I think some of the things that I found are just like self-motivation, especially during lockdown at the moment, because I'm working from home, I'm by myself, I haven't got a team around me, it is just me. So probably one of the biggest challenges is not even really engineering specific, it's just working by yourself and having to keep motivated, and that applies for lots of other people working different jobs, but I think it's amplified when you run your own business. You're the only person that's working on a project, and you're also the only person that knows if you don't do things. So I think that's been the thing that I've really found, like, okay, this is something I have to work on, this is actually a challenge that I have. It's just being able to keep so self-motivated and on it that I can schedule things for the week and I can keep myself accountable to them. So definitely I think that is my biggest challenge.
And what have you currently been doing to just keep yourself motivated?
Oh, I've got a lot of checklists. So what I tend to do is maybe on like a Friday afternoon, and then I'll look at it again on like a Monday morning, is what do I want to accomplish by the end of the week? Because if I try and go too much further than that, it seems like there's just so many things going on. So just breaking things down, going, okay, by Friday, what do I need to have done? And then, okay, I've got some free time in the rest of my week. What would I like to have done? Okay, what do I want to have done by the end of next month? Can I start fitting that in already? So just trying to organize myself. And if I know what's coming, I can almost get myself ready for the day a bit better, because I know what I'm supposed to be doing, rather than sitting down at my desk and then going, okay, what do we do today?
There are some people that always want to be pushed, but sometimes you just need to be able to push yourself just to get your work done. So in the perfect world, you go to school, you graduate, they tell you get a job. But we know that's not always the case. In your case, you have even founded your own company. What advice would you give to someone who is about maybe in final year or going to final year of uni? What advice would you give them? Or someone in high school who has probably done some STEM courses and considering engineering as a career choice?
I think I just figure out what you really enjoy. Whether you really like maths and you really like design and you want to do something with them both, or actually there's one topic you covered in your A-levels or somewhere in your degree that you were like, oh, this is what I'm really interested in. I'd say just look into that, try and pursue that, find a job or a course that lets you do more of it, because the more interested you are in something, the more effort you'll put in, and therefore the more you'll get out of it. And you can make yourself do a lot of things, but if you don't enjoy that, you'll never really gain as much from them. So I'd say really just figure out what you want to do. Don't be too swayed by what everyone else seems to be doing. If everyone else is moving somewhere, or if everyone else is looking at a certain type of job or type of degree course, like, figure out what's best for you and then just try and pursue it as much as possible.
Don't follow everybody, follow your own dream. So with your current job, running your own business, do you feel like every day feels like you're doing different things, or you feel like you are continuously doing the same things over and over again to push the product that you're designing?
I think it comes in phases. So more often than not, I'm doing different things every day, and I'm probably doing different things every few hours. And it will be like, oh, okay, I need to redesign this part, or I've got to answer a couple of emails because a client's emailing me, or oh, there's something I need to add to my website. So just splitting between lots of small jobs like that that work together to overall move forward in what I'm trying to get done. But there are times when I'm just like, right, for the next week, I just need to work on my designs. And so all I'm doing is just on CAD, like designing things and redesigning parts and then printing them out and seeing how they fit together. And that could take up like a week or two of my time. And so in that case, I'm doing the same thing pretty much every day, but I might just be moving from different parts that I'm designing, and that will be all. But I would say the majority of the time I'm doing different things all the time, and it just depends what is most pressing and what do I really need to get done.
Okay. This question, because people feel like you go to work and you end up doing the same things over and over again. And that issue of, okay, I'm going to be bored starts to hit some people. So I'm like, there's some level of variation when it comes to work, but there are also certain core elements of it that will always seem the same almost all the time. What benefits has come your way in terms of you being a woman in engineering or engineering in general?
Oh, I feel like both of them have led me to where I am now. If I wasn't an engineer, if I wasn't a female, if I wasn't doing something that isn't the norm, I definitely wouldn't have had as much traction and just even funding and things like that. So the first big lot of funding I got was a mixture of funding because I was an engineer, funding because I was a female, funding because I was a female engineer, funding because I was starting my own business. And then all of these things just compiled, funding because I was going into a medical business, just lots and lots of things stacked together. And all of a sudden I had enough money to actually start pursuing my business and going forward with that. So I think being a female in engineering still means that you're a bit unusual. People don't expect it. And I think that almost gives you an advantage when you're trying to like get noticed, because you are just a bit different anyway. When you already stand out for being one of the few women that are around. And so I think it almost acts as a bit of an advantage, because it's like, oh, she's a female, oh, she's an engineer, oh, she's starting her own business. And those three things together don't happen very often. And so all of a sudden you're someone that sticks in somebody's mind. And especially if you've got something a little bit unusual, or you can actually hold a good conversation with someone when they don't expect you to be able to, because you have got that engineering background. I think people can be pleasantly surprised by you. So I think, although sometimes the expectations may seem to be set low for you, it means that you can exceed them really quickly.
That's great advice, because I think for some ladies, for some female engineers, they get really conscious of the fact that it's only them, maybe at the workplace, and that actually starts to deter them from giving out their best work. But I think that knowing that, okay, we all know that engineering is quite dominant, but you know what, just use it to your advantage, because you're the only one there, and everybody will know that you're probably the only female in that situation. So why not?
Yeah. And the thing is, it won't get to a point where it's as many females as males unless females start moving into engineering. So it will never get to an even point where there's a 50% mix unless women start going into engineering. So there has to be some kind of starting point.
Yep. So what advice would you give to any young girl, probably in who has just finished year 11, thinking of A-levels, and then starting to think of probably a future career for themselves? What advice would you give to them, especially if they are thinking of engineering as a future career?
I think engineering in particular is so varied, and most people don't even really know what it is unless they specifically look into it. You think immediately car mechanic or looking at engines, and those are the stereotypical ideas of an engineer, and that's such a small bracket of engineering. So I think, first of all, just realizing how broad it can be, how many jobs it covers, how many different things that you can do, all of the different things you could study and learn about, I think is the first step to just realizing, oh, actually, this isn't just like one job, like engineer, it's like a whole section of jobs. So I'd say, first of all, just looking into the different types of engineering. And then again, like I said earlier, just following what you're interested in. If you really like certain subjects, then go for them, regardless of who else is picking them, or like what the diversity in your class size might be like. So I would say just follow the things that you're interested in and research engineering more, because there's so much to go into.
I think that's so true, but I also feel like maybe as engineers we don't do enough to let people know what we do, as in the scope and breadth of what engineering is. Because this idea of mechanics, of electrical engineers, I've had someone be like, oh, electrical engineers will fix like light poles, and I'm like, what? And I'm like, the phone or the laptop you're using actually has elements of it that's electrical engineering. So I'm like, wow, okay, we need to do a lot of a lot of education of what engineering
Yeah.
is. So there's also the perception out there that engineers are boring, but I don't believe in that at all.
Me
I
either.
think we are fun and exciting people. So do you want to share with us something you do outside of engineering that you think is fun and exciting that people will be quite surprised to find out?
Okay, so I really like to go traveling. So just going away for the weekend, finding super cheap flights, like under £30 for a return trip somewhere. And just going exploring, going to different places, going to places people have never really visited before. So I went to Latvia last year, I went to Bratislava this year, and just exploring the world a little bit more and visiting lots of small, just really interesting places and discovering a bit more about the world that I wouldn't usually know.
Avid traveler, I should say, or
Yes, oh, I really love traveling.
with the current lockdown, COVID, I don't know. I'm just like waiting for them to say everything is okay and we can just go out there and travel, because that's one thing I also personally enjoy. But I'm like, okay, what do I do now in this current scenario we're finding ourselves in? So what ending message will you have for women in engineering, whether those practicing, whether those yet to get in? Any ending messages?
Oh, I would say, like, again, probably my most used phrase, do what you're interested in, regardless of what other people are saying, regardless of the way that people are trying to direct you. If you really enjoy something, just go for it with like all of your heart, and just keep doing that, because so many doors will just open for you, ones that you've never expected. So just keep going, and eventually people will notice and you'll be able to start moving forward in what you enjoy.
Okay, thank you, Kate. That was great advice. Hopefully people take it and not get too scared about engineering or even the word scaring them off. We thank you for your time, for sharing your experiences of your engineering career as well as your education with us. Thank you.
Thanks.